I was going to say, guys, appreciate you joining in a little early. We're obviously just got started just to make sure there's no technical difficulties. We'll be starting on time at 1:35. Me and Jose are located, for those of you that don't know, me and Jose are located in Florida. And well, I can't say I've I've been anywhere up north or seen a whole lot of snow growing up. So we're sitting in the low 50s right now, and yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's cold for us.
Freezing.
So
We're freezing.
we're-
I don't know how people go outside in this on a regular
I got
basis.
the
I can't do it.
I got the heater on.
You know what it is too, though, is I think it's the humidity that also gets us. It's not just the cold. It's
Yeah,
not dry cold. It's that humidity that gets in there.
I agree, man. Hey, for those of you that are in here, if you could leave a comment or a thumbs up or leave an emoji, just want to make sure you guys can hear and see us okay. But just make sure we don't have any technical difficulties, all that good stuff. If you could drop a comment or drop an emoji. All right, I got a few coming in. That's good. And we are going to be doing our trivia again. So for those of you that were on last week's presentation about risk analysis, we'll be asking a couple trivia questions from that presentation. If you didn't join in, not a problem. Still want you to make an educated guess. It might even be, and again, I don't make these tricky or anything, use your context clues. Would love your participation as well. We'll give it another couple minutes, Jose, and then we'll get it going.
Of course. Checking some text messages, make sure everything's not on fire.
Sure. Understand that. How is the practice doing right now? You guys doing good?
So, based on the current cultural environment, I'm not going to be going out of business anytime soon. That's for sure.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't done much of a marketing push, and we're still getting 15, 20 new patients a week.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, I mean, we could accelerate that quite a bit more, and that's the plan for this coming year. But when we're not doing anything, they're literally finding us through word of mouth and just trying us out because we're one of the only ones picking up new patients in the area because mental health people aren't picking up new patients. So it's
And
fun.
is there a lot of mental health clinics around here that do the telehealth as well, or is that something that's sort of niche?
So mental health, especially telehealth, has been running around for a while.
Yeah.
They were one of the first specialties to really pick it up and adopt it just because it's so effective. You don't need to see the patient.
Sure.
Like once they're established, DEA rules even say, all right, once they're established, you're good to go. As long as the patient says that they're in the state that the provider has a license for.
Hmm.
But the provider can be in Thailand, they can be in Germany, they can be in Antarctica, they can be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. As long as the patient is within the state boundaries that the provider has a license, you're good to go. So it's rather convenient for the providers.
That's
It's one of our selling points to find providers, honestly.
right. No, that's great, man. All right. Well, it's 1:35. We'll go ahead and get it shaking.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well. For those of you that did join, I see Carol. Carol, I appreciate you joining in and obviously participating in another one of our webinars. Hope you're doing well. We're gonna do it just a quick 2-question trivia. It's gonna be questions from our last presentation. Give me a second. I'm gonna share a screen over here and we'll run through it. Just want to see where everybody's heads are at. See if you guys were paying attention. Obviously, for those that were on last week's presentation, give me a second. Gonna share screen and let me know if you can see. Jose, can you see
Yep.
screen? Awesome. So, like I said, we're just going to do a quick trivia just to see where everybody's heads are at. This is going to be question number 1. What are the 3 key concepts essential for understanding risk analysis and management in healthcare? And the choices are A, probability, impact, and likelihood; B, vulnerability, threat, and risk; C, integrity, security, and confidentiality, and D, detection, containment, and correction. Guys, you can just drop your answer in the chat box for me, and we'll give it about 30 seconds. I got one answer so far. Tisha, good to see you on this one. Oh, we got two. Give it another 15 seconds. All right. So the answer to this question, I got a couple C's in the chat. The answer is actually B, vulnerability, threats, and risk are the three concepts essential for understanding risk analysis and management.
Now,
Jose,
Ray, before we move on, let's unpack this a little bit
I was
because
gonna
this is
say,
also yeah, let's unpack this one a little bit, not just because of the prevalence of the answer C, but also because of the topic that we're going to be going over today.
right.
So when you're doing the risk analysis and you have the management plan after the fact, what you're assessing in during this whole process is the level of integrity, security, and confidentiality that your policies and procedures and your environment are producing. But you're actually looking at understanding where my vulnerabilities are, what are the threat levels, what is the risk of those threats occurring. For example, we've
Right.
already mentioned that we're in Florida. The likelihood of us getting a hurricane is about 100%. But the vulnerability factor is whether I'm in that area of apparently Tampa that gets hit every year hard, or if we're in the Northeast Florida where it's only 25% of the time, and it's a glancing blow versus South Florida that's getting hit every year, at least the glancing hit, if not full head force. So it's one of those things where we really want to take into account those kinds of details.
No,
Does
absolutely.
that kind of make sense to I hope that it kind of makes sense to everybody. I don't want to get too lost in the weeds on that, but um that's what you're kind of assessing. So again, Ray's having fun with the questions here and wording them in a way that can be a little bit tricky, but this one was worded well, and it's worded in a way that if you are familiar with the way the federal government or state government asks questions, this is kind of how they're going to ask that. This is the little bit of legalese that all these politicians like to use rather than straight English. So
Right. No, good point. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in chat. We are going to have a Q&A at the end of this session. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question so we can dive into our presentation. So question number 2, what is the legal consequence for healthcare organizations that fail to conduct risk analysis? And the choices are A, warning letters, B, mandatory fines, C, temporary suspension, and D, written warnings. Give you guys about 30 seconds to chime in with your answer. Tisha's on it.
yep.
Tanya, where you at? Come on. Okay, we got a few. We'll give it another 15 seconds and we'll go ahead and answer. I think Tisha and Tanya are the only participants we got today.
Man, they're on point
Come
though.
on, I know.
They're aware. They're paying
Yeah,
attention.
I
I
think
like that.
both of them were on last week's webinar, so that might make a little sense as to why. But
Okay.
anyway, so what is the legal consequence for healthcare organizations that fail to conduct security risk analysis? The answer is B, mandatory fines.
Remember that this does not include if the federal government comes through and double checks what boxes you've been pressing for MACRA or MIPS. So if you check that box and you haven't done it, I'm not saying put your head between your legs, but you, you need to talk to somebody.
Talk to somebody, or you can also talk to us. We're here to help as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean,
So let's dive into the today's presentation. Uh, Again, hey everybody, thanks for joining in, and I will be your host for today's webinar. My name is Raymond Walters, and I am joined by my co-host Jose Delgado. Um, Jose has over 17 plus years of experience in business development, healthcare management, as well as consulting. His latest venture, if you guys caught the chat before, he is a business owner and owns a mental health clinic, telehealth clinic. And Jose, anything to add to that introduction that I missed?
No, I mean, other than the fact that it's interesting. So that way, when you're talking to us, we are consultants, but we have our feet in the trenches. We know what you're
Yes.
going through every day, day in, day out. That when you're in a small office, you're not just a compliance officer. You're also a full-time fireman, just putting out stupid little fires with the patients, with the employees, with the providers, with the pharma reps, with the billing company or department, with IT, with your landlord. So I get the level of multitasking that really needs to be done, and our team here is really designed to help you out if you have any
Yes.
questions or concerns, and any questions at all about, and not just this, but anything from cradle to grave. We're more than happy to have the conversation with you, and that's always on the house, because we want to build relationships and not just clients. So
Absolutely. Good point, Jose. And obviously, for those that were on last week's webinar, we did talk about HIPAA security risk analysis. Today, we're going to sort of expound upon the process after you have a risk analysis done, which is obviously the risk management process and the risk management planning. So that's what we're going to get into today. Just a brief background on EPICompliance, established in 2013 by leading healthcare professionals. We specialize in healthcare compliance, specifically in HIPAA privacy, HIPAA security, OSHA for healthcare, and Medicare waste, fraud, and abuse. Our goal is simple. We want to help streamline the compliance process for our clients, being healthcare organizations, healthcare students, business associates alike, by providing online tailored solutions. Aside from that, we also have an in-person conference that we've been putting on since when, Jose? Was it 2016? Am I right?
pre-COVID, it
Pre,
doesn't matter.
yeah,
That's pre-COVID.
yeah, pre-COVID. We'll call it at that. So we've been putting on an in-person conference, and it's the conference is around healthcare innovation and compliance. And in particular, there is a boot camp that we offer. It's a certified HIPAA security officer training course, and this is a course that we're actually looking to be offering as an online solution here very soon. Jose, very briefly, just elaborate on that, our HIPAA security officer training program, as I know you're one of the instructors for that. And
Yeah, so basically, if you've been watching any of the videos, all these topics and many, many more, we try to break it down in 8 hours between the three different sections of HIPAA security: the administrative, the technical, and the physical. We do our damnedest to not make it boring,
yeah,
because it's 8 hours. You're gonna be in there.
it's
We go over not just the 280 different measures in the way that the federal government's asking and how to address them, but we also go over current cases that are making their way through the news, through the courts, so that way you can kind of be aware of what's going on there, any modifications or changes that we see coming down the pipeline. So I believe the new one even has a section for the safer guides.
yes.
So different things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's 8 hours, all information. I have yet to see someone go through that 8 hour course, even with a HIPAA background, and not be like, it's so much information. So these things hopefully will be great for you guys to already have some background in it if you decide to do that going forward.
Yep. No, absolutely. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a course that we are going to be offering online here very soon. Our goal is to have it up before the end of first quarter next year. So stay tuned. Obviously, we'll be sending some information on that once we get a closer deadline, so to speak. But let's go ahead and dive into today's presentation. Objectives. I mean, as I mentioned, for those of you that are on last week's webinar, we talked about risk analysis and that process. We're going to sort of expound today on the process after the risk analysis is conducted. Obviously, putting together a plan, establishing security measures, and obviously, we're going to go through evaluation and techniques on moving this forward. So, Jose, where I wanted to start with this, for those of
Yeah.
you that may have not been on last week's presentation, just very briefly talk about the risk analysis process.
I'm going to give you the 5,000-foot view. If you've got questions about the risk
Perfect.
analysis, check out the last one, because this one's, we got plenty of stuff to go through on the post risk analysis side.
Perfect.
The risk analysis is your federally mandated HIPAA security physical for the practice. It's the easiest way to put it. You want to put it once a year. You want to see where you're at, so that way you know what you need to work on. All right. So a lot of people will say, especially if they're proactive and being on conversations like these and doing trainings, they assume that everyone else is doing the same thing. And what you'll find is that usually your biggest liabilities, as with everything, are your providers and your employees. You may have everything all nice and buttoned up for them, but if they don't know where it is or they don't know the right answer, you're still screwed. So that's the TLDR for it. Now, what happens after you get the report? You do the physical, great. You've got this giant piece of paper if they've done their job properly. How do you address what to address? What is the importance of everything? Is there some things that are more important than others? The answer is always it depends. But
Mhm.
the easy way to figure it out is, one, what kind of resources do you have? What is the size of your practice? What is the overall chances of you getting audited in the near future? Because every year, CMS and HHS release a hit list of these are the specialties we're going to be taking a look at. And the popular flyers are always pain management, cardiology, ortho, and one more. That's just how it goes. Every once in a while, there'll be a nephrology thrown in there for
Sure.
once, and there'll be sometimes it'll be interventional radiology, sometimes it'll be oncology. It all depends on, honestly, spending the prior year, because all these EHRs are giving the federal government data at their fingertips that can easily be compiled. So the way you can check is by looking at the final rules and budgets and different things that the federal government releases between March and August. So that way they implement the final rule in September and it takes into effect in January 1st of the next year. But when it comes to the practice, you want to take a look at the simple stuff. Take the low-hanging fruit. All the federal government wants to see is improvement. If you have a hole on the policy side, fix that. That is easy. If you don't have a company like EPICompliance, or you don't have a consultant building out your policies, the next step is training and the procedures. If you didn't document the training through your procedures, you didn't do the job. So definitely make sure your team is getting trained, their annual training and their initial training is done. And then you want to go and make sure that what are our big policies? Again, we want to look at the bigger ticket items that would most likely affect you. So for example, if you're out west, natural disasters. Why? Because apparently the West Coast gets every natural disaster. You got flooding, fires, earthquakes. No, I don't think they get hurricanes. Parts of California get tornadoes, though, I
Yeah.
believe. So I mean,
I'd say
you got
tornadoes
everything
possibly.
else,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
you got every natural disaster you could think of. So if you're out west, think of that stuff. If you're in the Midwest, you want to think about, what to do during a snowstorm, tornadoes. Who tells who come to the practice? Is there something specific that needs to be done to protect that patient health information? All that fun stuff. One of the other areas that I always see is, does the practice have an inventory list? If you have an IT company, they should have an inventory list. Now, you should have a copy of it because you're the client. How do you know that they're not overcharging you for devices that don't exist anymore? How does the IT company know that they're getting charged sufficiently to protect all of the devices in the environment? So that inventory list is extremely important to keep track of. on that inventory list, you want to have where that computer is, like a name for it, front desk computer one, or whatever the case may be, provider computer one, whatever that may be, the serial number, and then you want to have the operating system and what the antivirus is on there. That should be an easy checklist. It's on. I know EPICompliance has one. You can do this through straight Excel. Your IT company will probably do it and give it to you through Excel. So what you want to do is just keep track of it.
I was
And
going to
that
say for
list should change throughout the year as they update the antivirus. If they don't ever update the antivirus, you have a problem. Because I don't know of an antivirus company that does not update their roles, their definitions, their safeguards every 30 days.
Jose, what would you recommend to those that may not be utilizing an IT company currently? I mean,
If you're
for
not
keeping log
utilizing
of
an
this.
IT company, I hope you're not dealing with an EHR. You better be on all paper.
Mhm.
Because if you're not dealing with an IT company, I mean, short of literally having a family member that's doing this for free, I can't see how you're even close to keeping up with all of these measures or even understanding which measures you need to be aware of. You know, like it's extremely, extremely
Good point.
difficult.
Good point. My point to that is we do see it. I mean, we do see companies that do, still do things by paper, don't have IT companies, and exactly what you said. It's a family member that's coming in and working part time and doing it for you. But my point to that
Even
is,
then, it's
if you're
just not.
not using an IT company, definitely look into it. And the main thing with these IT companies as well is they're going to help you with these processes. Um, Obviously, as far as the inventory list goes, that is something that they can help you with. EPICompliance can help you as well. But just wanted
Now,
to
when it
make that
comes
point.
to one more thing with the
Yeah,
IT companies, because I know one of the big pushbacks I get is the cost for basic things for a small office. You should not be paying more than like 250 a month because every
that's
device should
fair.
have passive monitoring, antivirus protection, malware protection, all of that fun stuff. So, and that's cheap because these IT companies get them for $15 a month per user. All right. Like it is relatively inexpensive. So it should not be hard for anybody to get access to that stuff. Well, as you get more complex, you start implementing a Microsoft 365 or a full-on Google Office environment. That stuff gets a lot more complex. Make sure you're the right size before you take that kind of a bear because it's
Sure.
it's time consuming, it's expensive, very, very expensive. So you really want to take a look at what's the right size for everything. Everybody's going to have holes. When you do the risk analysis, don't take the results personally. It's not the goalposts get moved every 3 years. Every 3 years, something gets
I was
changed.
going to say
Either
you shouldn't be getting 100%.
if you're getting 100%, they're not doing you a favor because
Yeah.
then the federal government's going to be like, hey, if you do get audited, they're going to say, prove it. And if you can't prove it, they just throw the whole thing out. So you always want to have holes. Always,
Yes.
always, always have holes. Find holes if you think you're perfect. Like it's important to have those holes. But again, address the issues. If you have your practice split up between admin and clinical, what you'll find is a lot of people are confused as to who the officers are. Who's the HIPAA privacy officer? Who's the HIPAA security officer? Who's the OSHA officer? Who's the OIG officer? Perfect. And you'll see real quick where everybody's not necessarily allegiance lies, but you know who they're reporting to
Right.
because they're going to say the person they're reporting to is that officer. On EPICompliance and every single one of these policies and procedures, there should be a job description for these officers. Make sure if you're the officer that you're aware of what that job description is. And if you sign on that dotted line, you are taking responsibility for what the practice does and does not do. So make sure you're aware of that. When it comes to, I mean, everybody's got limited resources, right? So we're talking about balance considerations.
Correct.
Like, so I mean, don't look at the easiest option is never to spend money. Because if your issue is your employees are not trained, even though they've done the annual training, it means you just need to beat them over the head with certain concepts throughout the year. What's the sanction policy? I can literally count on one hand, how many employees every year when we do the SRAs for offices that actually know what a sanction policy is and can tell us what the sanction policy is for the practice. Most employees don't know. They
I was
don't
gonna
know.
say.
They don't know either one, much less both. So you really want to take that into account. You really want to, and you document when you do those trainings, even if it's something like, hey, it's 15 minutes at lunch or 15 minutes before we jet at the end of the day, or 15 minutes before the doors open. Hey, it just counts as a training. Sign a piece of paper saying that you were here for that training. Make sure you document what was trained on. Keep going. So there's a lot of different ways to address these in an economical manner. What you want to do is take a look at the risk analysis. Don't fall asleep when you're reading it. That's the first big one. The second big one is figuring out which ones with your executive team you want to address. Don't try to address everything, just try to address a few in different areas and then move forward.
What would you consider a higher prio? And you know, maybe a
So
previous
let's
example of somebody that you conducted an SRA for, and maybe
I'll give you a couple in each section, right? So
sure,
the physical one, the biggest problems I normally see are one, back doors being unlocked. You would be shocked by how many times I'm doing an audit and I just go and say, "Hey, where's the back door?" And then click, it's unlocked. You'd be shocked. Second one would
interesting.
be on the physical side, would be where if you're using portable devices, where are all those devices? Who has the devices? Do you have a log saying
Sure,
which person has which device? On the technical side, are all of the devices being protected or just some of them being protected? On the technical side, if I'm in an environment where each exam room has a device, when does that device get logged out? What's the auto lockout? Are all employees, including the providers, trained on not leaving that EHR open when a patient is in there? I can't tell you how many times I walk into an exam room and the EHR is open. It's not even minimized. It's
wow.
just open on the screen. And I'm just like,
There's no
what do
automatic
you
log off or anything, or I
well, I
guess
mean,
it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. You
Yeah,
leave the room, log out
yeah, yeah.
or lock the computer. You have to think that any patient is going to be extremely nosy. Even if they're just looking for information on themselves, they're gonna look if you give them the opportunity. Leaving that
Sure.
EHR open, even for 45 seconds, is plenty of time for them to take a look at, hey, I wonder if I can find my brother in here, or I wonder if I can find Bobby from church. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to give them that opportunity. So different aspects there. Technical side, another big one is we talked about the portable devices. We talked about the auto logout. The on the technical side, the printers. We've talked about it in a different one, but the printers and having a BAA and who owns the
Yes.
printer and who gets rid of the hard drive, that's a big one. And then on the administrative side, it's the training. It's the fact that the employees don't know where the policies and procedures are. If you're using a company like EPICompliance, put it on their desktop as a logo that they can double click. Nobody does this for some reason. And when I go do an SRA, they always tell me it's in a binder in the office manager's office. The office manager's like, I haven't had a binder in here since the Obama administration.
Right.
So, I mean, it's something to where you really want to, on the administrative side, it's making sure that everybody's trained up to follow through with policies. What is the sanction
Point.
policy? Where do the employees know who to talk to, who not to talk to? Do the employees know when to give out information and what kind of information they can give out? If you're an infectious disease or mental health, you've got a whole nother bag of problems, not just regular HIPAA, but you have super confidential information that you cannot give out.
And these are questions that an inspector can ask of a staff member, correct? They
Absolutely.
they
I
can
mean, you
they can
I,
interview. I don't think I've ever seen a scenario where they've interviewed every single employee, but they can pick and choose an employee to interview and ask these
absolutely.
questions too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Seniority does not matter when an auditor comes in, unless it's literally first 2 weeks. I haven't seen an auditor be that difficult.
Right.
But usually, I mean, it's first things are show me your last SRA, and then they start breaking things down from there based on what was the tip they were given to come to the office. Hey, where are your exams? Let me see your Wi-Fi. Can I log in to the company Wi-Fi with my cell phone by guessing the password as Acme 123? Like let's make it complex, a little bit complex, guys. So yeah, so I mean, you want to implement the security measures, you want to take a look. And again,
Right.
break it down into different pieces. Your technical side, give that to the IT company and just say, hey, here's where we had problems. Give me a proposal for what it would take to do all this stuff. And if some of this stuff wouldn't even be worth addressing, some of it is addressable, but you need to document why it doesn't apply to you. My favorite one is because most people are never going to have this size issue unless you're in a specific environment. Is what is your manned employee HIPAA security hotline? Do you have one?
Mhm.
Because you're supposed to have one. But if you have less than 50 employees, you know everybody's voice. So what's the point? You're not very anonymous if I know everybody's voice. So you really want to take a look at what is feasible for your practice. If you're in that 1 doc, 3 doc shop, it, you're going to be able to get away with a lot of things like, hey, I kind of do this, but I don't do this, or I don't do all of this, or you're not expected to have your own server and that be protected in all of the different ways that it needs to. Now, if you have your own server in your small doc office, why?
Mhm.
Someone sold that to you, it's extremely expensive. Get rid of it. It's a liability more than anything else. We have a client that is still dealing with a bad patch that ended up being ransomware. That thing is a mess. But if you
I
don't need
can
a
imagine.
server, yeah, if you don't need a server, don't deal with the headaches. So, on the admin side, like I said, it's going to be babysitting on the other two sides. On the physical side, some things can be modified if you own the building. If you don't own the building, let's say you're a practice in a hospital, you can't change anything. You're a renter. So it's really just playing with where and being aware of what the issues are. So if, let's say I'm renting an office in a hospital and the way that my computer in the front desk looks, if a patient's looking in from the window, they can't see my screen. But if a patient is coming and leaving the office, they can see my screen clearly just because of the way that the office is set up. There's no way to change that. You don't have the flexibility. You have 1,000 square feet. It is what it is. So then you may want to take a look at, okay, well, if that's my risk, but it's a medium to low level risk because there's no reason
Sure.
why the patient should be hanging out to my 45-degree angle off my left side so they can just sit there and watch. So it's something to where maybe you put a little mirror up so that way you can see if somebody's stopping there. Maybe you put some people have like screen tinters
Screen tint.
that they
Yep.
put up. Yep. So you can't see what's on there. It just there's a lot of different options. There's a lot of ways to be creative for very, very inexpensive to handle these kinds of low level things. And again, you don't want to do everything all at once. You just want to do a few things here and there, make sure everybody's trained, make sure you're documenting the training, and then you're moving on. All right.
No, good point. That kind of leads into the next slide. So obviously we talked about conducting a risk analysis, establishing, initiating a plan, and then continual evaluation of that plan. In other words, this stuff's ongoing, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yep. So the sad part is that this is absolutely an ongoing thing, and then not to mention you also have HIPAA security. You have HIPAA security, which we're talking about. You have HIPAA privacy, which still applies if you're still printing patient information or getting fax patient information or getting patients giving you documents from other providers. Like you have other alphabet agencies to worry about as well. So we really want to be as proactive as possible, but make sure that we're not duplicating efforts. So anything we do for HIPAA security for natural disasters, we want to make sure that those policies are piggybacked onto those other alphabet agencies so that way we're doing one job, but it's counting for four different measures on four
Mhm.
different areas. So really just take a look at what's going on. If you're curious and you have the time, see how well you're doing, you can always do the HIPAA security assessments, or you can hire the same people to do the SRA again mid-year. I don't recommend that unless you're on a compliance plan because you got in trouble, so take a look at that, take a look at what the risk is of those things, but then you just want to make sure that you're keeping track of what's if there are any changes for certain things.
Somebody sent a private message to me, and they were asking. And I know we talked about this last presentation. I don't think this person was on it, but this person uses the self-assessment tool provided to
Yep.
them. What's the risk associated with using the self-assessment tool versus having a third party uh,
So I've never
conduct
seen
this? Or
someone tell themselves that they're not doing well in a self-assessment. The problem with a
point one, yeah,
self-assessment is that how honest are you going to be that the practice is doing what is intended? You're already thinking that you're doing what is intended.
right,
So you're going to obviously score yourself positively. And the federal government knows that too. So they really prefer a third party. It's not stated on there, but if you're doing it yourself, it's going to be a problem. It's going to get thrown right out real fast. So be very, very careful with doing that on your own. Now, you may want to do that after the fact, or you may want to do that during the year. Have somebody else be like, hey, double check this in here. If you have a compliance department, or if you have um different people that you're having do different parts of the HIPAA security or taking responsibility for different aspects of it, then have them do it and then review it.
right.
It's helpful, but honestly, when I'm doing the SRAs and when auditors are doing their audits of the practice, the self assessments, it's
Well,
toilet
I
paper.
would add to your response, using a self-assessment tool that doesn't necessarily teach you how to put a plan together,
No, no, not at
especially
all.
if you're if you're giving yourself a higher score than than you should, then you're really not planning that much to do, right? Or that much to
Yeah.
correct. So, um,
It's a double-edged sword. It gives you
right,
a false sense of security, and it also gives you it doesn't really count for anything. And it does not the self-assessment tool is not equal to a HIPAA security risk analysis. That A gets confused very often between an analysis and an assessment. If you
sure.
don't know the difference, it can be an issue when you go to click that checkbox and attest that it's being done.
No, good point. And as far as post risk analysis, you got your risk management plan. How often should you be evaluating and that plan, and how often should you be
So
going
the
in
word
and
so the word periodic annoys me personally, because it's extremely vague. I
sure,
mean, periodic could be twice a year. It could be every week. It could be everything in between. I genuinely like to take a look at things when I'm already lifting up the hood. So think about this like a car. If I'm already going to go and mess with and take out the engine block, I might as well take out the transmission too and tweak everything while I'm in there. For those that are not very car based, let's go back to the basic HIPAA security piece of this. Let's say I switch IT companies. As they're doing their assessment of what it is we're going to be asking of them to do, I may as well take a look at everything else and see what needs to be changed, what hasn't been done, what has been done, all that fun stuff. Same with billing. If I'm getting a new billing company or I'm changing billing software or EHRs, all that needs to be addressed. If I'm getting a new location, maybe I'm checking all my BAAs. Let's say I'm bringing on a new provider. Gives me a perfect reason to check the BAAs and check with my BAs to see if they're doing what they need to do. So you really just want to take a look at it as when I'm already there, putting a little bit extra effort can go a long way to just address certain things head on before they become an issue.
No,
Can't
good.
tell you how much money that saved me on the billing side. Jesus
Right.
Christ.
So let's sort of recap on everything, Jose. Moving on to the solutions, what specific actions can individuals take to address security management planning? I think you kind of nailed it on the head, but if you want to go ahead and
Yep.
just
Once you
recap.
got your SRA, take a look at it with the executive team, mark up the crap out of it, and see what you want to address this year and when you want to address it. Then start attacking the plan.
Yeah.
Like that's basically it. The other three points that you have here are just those aspects. Some of it could be as simple as, hey, I have backup plans for when the internet goes out, when the power goes out, but we never tested it. Bullshit. Anytime you
Right.
lose power, anytime you lose internet, anytime you have a situation that can be considered an opportunity to test, you document that you tested it.
Take advantage. Yeah.
It
Document.
doesn't matter if you
Yeah.
pass or failed the test. It's just a test.
Right.
The
Right.
federal government doesn't care if you did perfect on the test. They just want to know that you tested these backup procedures.
And that,
So
that,
have
and
fun with it.
yeah. Yeah. No, good
Make
point.
lemonade out of it,
Good points. And again, for those of you that may have never had an SRA done or just looking to get more information, again, this is what we do. We conduct these security risk assessments, these third party assessments. If you're looking for more knowledge, more information, please let us know. We're happy to help. Need to set up a call? We're certainly open to that. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
And other than that, again, for those of you that may be new here, always throw this at the end of our presentation. Again, we specialize in healthcare compliance. We're here to help you guys stay compliant to avoid these problems that are make sure nothing becomes a problem, especially
Yep.
when it comes down to inspection. But for those of you that don't know, it's a federal requirement for your new hires to have OSHA training within the first 10 days. We offer a free OSHA course through our EPICourses website. Again, it's on this slide here, but I will be sending information out to everybody. At the bare minimum, if you haven't done that this year, why not take advantage? If you guys are looking for something more robust, you're looking for HIPAA training, we do have that as well as a paid service. We have a training bundle that includes HIPAA privacy, HIPAA security, OSHA for healthcare, and a Medicare waste, fraud, and abuse training. If you're looking for something above that and you're looking for, sort of a one-stop shop system that keeps all your policies, procedures in one place, all your business associate documentation, all your training, etc., we have a EPICompliance Pro package. Again, if you're generally interested or want to learn more, we're always open to a call. We generally hop on either a Zoom or just a phone call. You let us know. We'll be glad to help you or at least point you in the right direction. Um,
Absolutely.
Other than that, this is an interesting time. Obviously, we're in mid-December right now. We got the holidays coming up. Hopefully, everybody here has gotten their Christmas shopping done, or at least most of it. I can tell you right now, I'm I'm at least halfway there. But as far as our next webinar, right now it's to be announced. We are going to be taking a break next week, and obviously the week after for New Year's. Have not decided yet if we want to have our I guess first webinar of the new year, if we want to do that January 2nd.
I'll be working, so I mean,
I
just
mean,
let me
I'm
know.
going to be working too. I'm just more so concerned that I don't know if people are going to be taking off, or I guess for those of you that are in chat, feel free to chime in. Are you guys going to be working on the day after New Year's, or would you be interested in listening in on our next webinar then? Like I said, we're going to take the next 2 weeks off, and then we're going to start back up in the new year. But I was a little hesitant because I noticed that, again, we do these every Tuesday. Um, that Tuesday falls on January 2nd, obviously the day after the new year. So I don't know if people are going to be out of town or what. It looks like Carol's going to be in on it. So here we go. We got one. That's all we need. Now, Carol,
Perfect.
we're more than likely, we're probably going to have our next one January 2nd. So everybody that's on this webinar, stay tuned. We are going to send some info out on that. Don't have a topic picked out yet, but I think we're still, I'm really liking the HIPAA talks. I think we're going to stick on the HIPAA security side of things. Maybe we'll dive into HIPAA privacy, but I think for 100% we're going to be sticking on the HIPAA, the HIPAA topics for now. If you guys have any ideas, or if you guys would like us to talk about anything, please leave a comment. Certainly we'll look into that for you, especially if it's something that, something that we can address on that webinar. And it looks like Trish is going to be there as well. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate everybody's time. We are going to open up here for a quick Q&A. If you guys have any questions, concerns, please go ahead and provide them in chat, and Jose and I will do our best to answer. Let's see. So Carol, not related to this webinar, but are we going to be getting our monthly notice?
Your monthly reminder should be sent out by
Carol,
the time.
if you're talking about the security reminders through EPICompliance, the security reminders went out at the beginning of December, and they should be in your news and notification center. If they're not
If
in
you didn't
there,
get it by email,
let us
yeah.
know. And yes, there was an email that was sent out as well. Interesting. I'll look into that for you, Carol. We'll see why that is, but we did send it out at the beginning of November, or I'm sorry, the beginning of December, and we did send an email out. I believe it was that Friday of that week as well. But I'll look into it for you, and I'll certainly get in touch. Alicia, happy holidays as well. I appreciate you joining in. Hope to see you at our obviously our New Year webinar January 2nd. Hope to see you there. Natasha, appreciate your time as well. Thanks for joining in. Hope this was valuable to you. And again, hope to see you on our next webinar as well. Again, taking a 2-week break here, but for the holidays, obviously, but hope everybody has a safe holiday, enjoys it. If you guys need anything or have any questions, certainly let us know. Jose, I think, well, I don't think anybody's got any questions today, so we'll just we'll leave it at that. Not a bad thing.
Nope.
But like I said, guys, appreciate your guys' time. Again, we do these webinars weekly to bring value to you. Again, this is a lot of information to cover, but we try to keep it concise. And like I said, if there's any specific topics you'd like us to cover, please feel free to let us know. Again, I'm going to be sending some information out via email. And again, I've had this question asked before. We are working very hard to get these onto YouTube, so that if you want to refer back to a video, you certainly can. Stay tuned for that. I will send you some information once we get those videos up. But in the meantime, like I said, we haven't decided on a topic yet, but we'll be sending some information out so that you guys can start registering. Again, appreciate everybody's time. Jose, as always, appreciate your time. and
Yeah.
we'll see everybody on the next one. Okay. Have a safe and happy holiday, guys. Jose,
Have a
you as
good one,
well.
guys.
Take care.
Sunshine.